Hi everyone, we're going to look at a game that was played by Joshua Kemp against yours truly. And he opened up with e4, best by test, Bobby Fischer, e5, no jive, bishop to c4, which is the bishop's opening, knight c6, knight f3, and by transposition we get into a gioco pianissimo. And here Joshua played knight c3, which is an option. I played knight f6. And then he went d3. I went d6. Now here, he brought the bishop out to g5 early. In the opening, remember, there are a couple objectives you have. You want to have a flag in the center, control the center. You want to develop your team off the back bench, get them out onto the field, you're the coach. You also want to keep your king safe, and more often than not that means castling, but you got to castle at the right time. Now this opening, the gioco piano, the Italian game, is a perfect opening for you to play if you're not rated, if you're just a casual player, to a club player, up to 1,000 rated. All you need to know is e4, they go e5, knight f3, knight c6, defending the pawn, bishop to c4. And you just have to be careful after that. Look at how many times squares are attacked, check all your line pieces, look at every arm of the octopi, and you'll have a good game. So, getting back to my game against Joshua, he played bishop to g5. And so here I ask him a question. I don't want to leave that pin on for too long because he might pile pressure upon it by adding another attacker. And so I want to know what his intentions are. Is he going to move backwards, or is he going to capture, or is he going to go home? Well, he moved backwards, bishop h4. And now I go g5. Now, it might be kind of risky to move the pawns over on the king side, but I haven't castled to that side of the board yet, so it's not so bad, actually. And of course, he's being attacked, so he keeps his piece safe, brings it to g3. And now I go a6. The idea here is to give my bishop a square to retreat to, guard b5. Some ideas behind it. It's an older move. Queen to d2. Interesting move. Now he's preparing castling, either queen side or king side. Great moves. Now right here I played the move bishop to g4, attacking the knight. The knight's only defended by the pawn, so if I capture, the pawn will have to recapture, and then that will create some weaknesses on the king side of the board. So should he castle to the king side, that would create some problems potentially for Joshua. And so here he plays a move that's very aggressive, but is the wrong move to play. He could have retreated the knight and then played a move to kick the bishop out of there, block its view of d1, ask it a question. Backwards moves are very difficult to see typically. But here he played knight takes pawn, and actually maybe the idea was that if I play knight takes knight, pawn to d4 forks the knight and bishop, but that ultimately fails because then I just play a move like knight takes bishop and I'm hitting the queen, and that isn't so good for him. He's going to lose material, especially if I grab on b2. He does get one of the pieces back more than likely in this line. Now, I decided to go a different way with this shenanigan of his. When he played, pardon me, let's get the initial position back. After he had played knight takes pawn, I decided to take with my pawn and just kind of clamp down on the d4 square. A little less messy. And now he's down a piece, so of course I, being up a piece, wouldn't mind exchanges at all. Now he does get to play the move f3, and he asks my bishop a question, move it or lose it. The bishop retreats. Actually, the bishop retreats back here. Like, once again, I did say I do want to do exchange pieces off because I'm up a piece. Have to be careful of that when you're only up a minor piece, because yeah, you exchange all the pawns off and it's a draw. If you only got a knight and a king, you can't checkmate a king. If you only got a king and a bishop, you can't checkmate the other king. So you got to be careful about the way you exchange down, but the more pieces you get off the board, leaving some pawns on, the better. He tries to avoid the exchange, so now there's a little bit of a staring contest between the two bishops. And I decide to put a pin on his knight to his queen and ultimately to the king. So there's a relative pin there, and if the queen's not there, then there's an absolute pin on the knight. Here, Joshua castles queenside. He's looking for king safety. Now, whenever you castle queenside, you have to realize that you're one square further removed from that side of the board, and so you'll probably at some point want to play the king over to help protect that pawn way over there. May not look relevant with a bishop here right now, but that bishop could be captured. And that's what happens right here. Bishop takes bishop. I want to create some weaknesses around that king. Pawn takes. So now there's an open area over here where it's a bit drafty for the white king. All of the white pieces are on this side of the board. King needs to be careful. I need to find a way to get at least 3 pieces over there to attack that king. So now I bring the queen over, and Joshua centralizes his rooks. That's actually a good idea. And now I castle to the queen side, putting more pressure on this d file. This move is a bit questionable. The rook really can't do anything laterally, and it's blocked in on the e file. So the rook is a bit clumsily placed there. Rook h to e8. I decide to centralize my rooks, borrowing a page from Joshua's book. It's a good idea to centralize those rooks. Bishop to f2, setting up some shenanigans. Maybe that at some point that rook moves really quickly and my queen gets attacked. So, seeing what my opponent was up to, let's deal with the threat before it becomes a bigger threat. So let's just retreat the queen. g3 was played. Now I bring my knight into d4. And really there's a simple idea here. I want to bring the knight over to b5 and put more pressure on this piece, bring the queen over, and just end up winning. Because he only has 2 defenders, if I can add a third attacker, I have 1, then 2, then 3, then I can win a pawn there. Or I'm actually winning the game, and I'm more than winning a pawn, I end up probably checkmating him. h4 was a move that was played. And instead of opening the h file, I played the move g4. The idea here is to let my knight hop on in to g4. And now Joshua plays f4. Bit of a problem for me. His best move here was not king b1, what he played in the game. His best move would have been bishop g3. That would have been his best move. And now the queen has some problems. The queen's trapped. So even when you're losing a game, there's still opportunities when people get a bit careless. And indeed, that was a poison pawn that I should not have touched. Now here I would try and sacrifice the knight, attack his queen so I can retreat my queen, give back the piece and try and survive. And that would be an option. But instead, he makes the mistake of moving his king. Whenever you're playing a game of chess, you really do want to check your line pieces, your queens, your rooks, your bishops. Look at every line that emanates out of those pieces, and like rays of light across the board, see what they touch and see what they might touch if nothing was in the way. Very important to check your line pieces. The octopi, the knights, they're like octopi because they can grab 8 squares each if they're towards the center of the board. You should check every arm of your octopus and make sure you know what it's looking at, yeah? And especially check the line pieces and the octopi of your opponent. You don't want to walk into any threats. So now the knight comes back over here to put more pressure on that knight on c3. And right here, there's another dubious move that's played. Again, bishop g3. Now, rook f1 is a mistake. It's a self-pin. The bishop is pinned to the rook. Nothing defends the rook. When you have loose pieces, you got to be careful, because loose pieces can drop off the chessboard quite easily. And here, the best way to do that is to go g3. Now, obviously, if Joshua captures with the bishop, he's losing a whole rook, and it's check. That's no good. The other capture, rook takes the pawn on g3. So just to rewind, if I attack the pinned piece, and instead of capturing with the bishop, he captures with the rook, his queen's loose and undefended. Now I could just capture the queen. That would be bad for him. Instead of that, though, I had my sights fixated on this knight here on c3. I want to play captures, get a bishop in here, and slide a queen down on a1 for checkmate, ideally. That's the mate I had in mind. So I just bring the queen up to e5, and I'm already thinking about my checkmate. I've got a third attacker here, getting ready to win the pawn and create devastating weaknesses on the dark squares. King to a1. King to a1 was played. Knight takes c3. Now, he doesn't want to capture pawn takes, because bishop takes is check and the queen's attacked. Queen takes check. He's losing the house. So here, instead, he finally finds the right move. And this happens in chess quite often. You find the right move later. You know, if you don't find it immediately, it's usually not as good when you do find it later. And here, queen a5 was check and mate. I want to thank my opponent, Joshua, for having played this game. I hope you all enjoyed this presentation. We meet every Saturday from 10 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. And you should check out the information on the Gold Beach Chess Club. I'll provide that in the notes down below. Anyways, I'm wishing you and yours all the best. Stay well, be well. Take care. Peace out.